Hey everyone, it's Dr. Arlene Diamco, the multidimensional MD. My mission is to help to bring the intuitive aspects of health back to medicine in practical and tangible ways so that you can access deeper healing and experience more peace, love, and joy in your everyday lives. So I I'm very happy to be here, and I I wasn't sure if I would be able to make it, but I thought that it would be good for me to practice what I've been reflecting on these last couple of weeks. And it is the theory of relativity. This is something that has fascinated me since I first came across it in high school physics class. It's Einstein's theory of relativity. And there's this time space continuum. Both time and space are relative to how fast you're moving. And as you approach the speed of light, time slows down and mass seems to take up more space. So I'm going to break this down in a way that I feel that it means something to me because it feels like such a big idea, and it was mind blowing for me in high school and continues to be because I felt like my whole perspective and how I saw the universe shifted. Because one, not everything is as it seems. And so, as a high school student, that is, and now, that is actually a really huge revelation is that not everything is as it seems. And that there were my world was so small at the time, and this idea that your observation actually affects what you're witnessing, what you're experiencing, it was a huge idea. I mean, we start to think about how our consciousness has to do with that. So, if the more we are conscious of ourselves and the way we think, then that actually shifts how we experience the world. So, if there's any confusion, shift your perspective, look from a different angle, and better yet, back up, see it from a bigger picture. It doesn't mean that you won't necessarily hurt in the world, but if you back up and look from a bigger perspective, then you can still see meaning even in very difficult times and situations. There's still a way to expand and grow through things and get something out of very difficult times. And so we know this, of course, anytime a loved one is sick, we start to look at things differently. We start to appreciate more things about them. Towards the end of the life, time seems to shift as well, and we have a different appreciation for things. But we really never know exactly what is going to happen, and so that's part of this. That not everything is as it seems. So, and we don't know the grander purpose for any one phenomenon, for any one situation. But we can use our consciousness to back out and try to understand more. And is there any way that we can love ourselves more through a situation? Is there any way that we could love someone else more through a situation? And uh, and loving someone else actually relies on us loving ourselves, because we can't love another fully unless we love ourselves fully. So you start to see how one thing impacts another, and there's this whole ripple effect. And that's what I discovered when I read Einstein's relativity. Two, perspective matters. So the again, the mere act of observation affects the perspective. So again, our consciousness shifts our perspective, and all of these comments are going to be interwoven with each other, because you can't really talk about one aspect of relativity without affecting all the other parts of it. So that's part of relativity. And focusing on what you can do at any given moment instead of what you can do really can help you shift your perspective. Asking a question of what am I thankful for to help prime your subconscious mind can help to shift your experience in the world. And you don't have to have the answers for everything. Just shifting the question will help shift your subconscious perspective. And then your whole being gets to work at creating that experience for you. So you will start to notice more things if you just prime your brain with what am I thankful for, and you don't have to answer the question. You'll just start to naturally notice more things if you start your day that way. If you focus on what can I do at any given moment instead what I can't do, it's so easy to focus on what I don't have, what I can't do. So we can start to loop with those thoughts and perseverate on those thoughts, and that can spiral us downwards. But we can also help lift ourselves up by focusing on more elevated questions and phrases and mantras. What can I do? And letting the universe deliver that to you. And when we think about time too, that starts to be delivered to us. So I'll talk about that more in just a moment. Number 3 is that energy and mass are interchangeable. And that is Einstein's E equals mc squared. Energy equals mass times the speed of light constant squared. So energy and mass are interchangeable because really everything is energy. Energy and mass are basically different forms of the same thing, energy. So somehow if you shift an energetic pattern, you can also shift the pattern of a mass. You can also shift the characteristics. So according to Einstein's theory, illness he felt was caused by energetic disruptions in the body. If so, the reverse of that is if you restored the balance of energy, if you restored healthy energetic patterns, then you could potentially heal the body. You could heal a lot more than the body if you did that. In 1934, he gave a lecture at the University of Pittsburgh, and he said, "We are dealing with fundamental problems of energy and matter, and the treatment of illness by energy is in principle conceivable." So that is really interesting because we can look at illness, or say if it's a physical illness, and we can address all the physical characteristics of it. But if we do not back out our perspective and also address the energetics, the mental, emotional, so it's expanding our dimensions and understanding this relativity in our lives, then it will only take us so far. So what I see is that if you only address the physical, that sometimes things are not long lasting. They're not necessarily sustainable, or you're working really hard to get the results that you want to see. And at some point, you either run out of steam or whatever symptoms you had start to come back. If you start to incorporate these other dimensions, the mental, emotional, the energetic, and again, everything is energy, then you can start to address things from multiple perspectives and deal with that, because you unless you shift the energetic pattern, that pattern is still like a template in the subconscious, is a template in the energy field. So unless you shift that, then you will tend not to get these lasting results. And I really feel that in medicine and healthcare, that we could elevate what we are doing to help people, and we could elevate the how we are healing ourselves and helping each other by addressing things in a more multidimensional way, by addressing how time, space, energy, mass are relative to each other and this continuum. So there's so much to say on that. I'm going to keep this episode relatively brief, but I felt the need to come on here to at least start the conversation about this, because we could talk about it endlessly. And this was my practice too of feeling like, do I have enough time to talk about this? Do I have enough time to actually give it any justice or to provide any clarity on the subject? And the first thing was, well, I felt to myself like, don't be afraid to at least start the conversation, because it's an infinite conversation. It is lifelong and more than lifelong. It is a collective conversation. And the more we can see that everything is relative and we are relative to each other as well, then the more we can access health. So start thinking about like energy in different ways: mental energy, emotional energy, physical energy, and see where you can, what you can do. Ask the question, what you can do, what can you be thankful for, and then see if what happens in your day if you just prime your day like that, and at the end of the day you can do the same thing, so that when you're sleeping it's more restorative, and again you have your energy and your subconscious working for you. So you might as well get the most out of your your time. Um, Now, for time is relative. And there are so many examples of this, from the easy ones to more complicated ones. When you're little, a year seems like a long time. Kids go through lots of changes. Obviously, a baby is changing constantly. Every day even seems like a lot. Then, as you get older, a year seems like not much time at all. And so I see that with my own kids, and I might say something, and I was like, oh, that was only last year. And they say, yeah, that was a whole year ago. So I start to see like, wow, yeah, time is relative. And then the older you get, it seems to shift. To another example is time flies. There's that saying, time flies when you're having fun, meaning from the perspective of the person having fun. Again, we have this perspective. Hardly any time went by at all. So it appeared to go by quickly. But if you had a clock from the outsider perspective, plenty of time went by when the person having fun was experiencing that. So, two different, it's like there's two different times, but you're living it together. We have, it's like multiple realities can exist at the same time. And that is a very true statement. You can see it in any group where, again, you might see one person having more appreciation and another person having more complaints about things. We need the various perspectives. We need the colors of the rainbow. And so it's actually being able to like respect and appreciate all of our differences, and that we can add some beauty with our differences, especially if we are all coming from a more loving place. And so I'll talk about that more in just a moment. Other examples of how time is relative is with the quality of a friendship. So a friend recently said to me, it's not how often I see you, because the connection transcends all of that. So there's a quality to the relationship, and she had freed up the pressure of like, oh, we don't get to see each other as much as we want to. And instead of feeling down about that, it's switching it to appreciating the quality of the friendship, so that when we do have time to get together, it's like no time has passed at all. So that's a really interesting way of looking at it. And it's also helps to you to feel less stressed about time. So I think about this with family life as well. I think about, well, I mean, I have four kids, and in, of course, different ages. So they will, at different ages, different situations, have various needs. Obviously, when they are in the baby age, babies will need more time than, say, an adult child. And I used to worry that I didn't have enough time to spend with each of my kids, and that's something I still look at and reflect on, and meditate on, like what needs those are, because those will be fluctuating. Then I read somewhere that it was, again, the quality of the relationship. That was really what was important. That if you thought about like, why do you want to spend more time? It's like, because you want to feel more connected. You want to feel that you have a good relationship. And so when you focus and clarify what you are really hoping for is to have a connection, then you step into that feeling, and you see what steps you can take to make that connection. And it doesn't always it's not linear to time, because having full presence of a very important moment, or listening with your presence without thinking of your to-do list, that will feel like more quality time, and it will give that time more weight and more value than if you were spending more time with each other but not necessarily being present. So we have to clarify what we mean by time and why we feel pressured by time. And I have a lot of projects, and so time is something that I think about often. And this was my recent revelation in the last week on time, and this really just like changed everything for me. So this has to do with Einstein's theory of relativity. So when I thought about Einstein's theory of relativity, because I was thinking like, how can I have enough time? Could I expand time? Could I create more time? Or could I give the appearance that I have more time? So there's not this pressure to get things done. So I had this revelation that, according to Einstein's theory of relativity, that if time is relative, meaning the faster you move, the slower time is. And if time slows down as you approach the speed of light, or appears to even stop as you approach the speed of light, then that potentially means that if you vibrate at the speed of light, which is if you simply be the light that you are, accept that fully, express that fully, then you'll have all the time in the universe. That's divine timing. And you'll also have this feeling of being expansive, lighter, expansive, and not afraid to take up space in the world and create and be yourself. So that's my summary of it all. And it's to be the light that you are, be the love that you are, be your authentic self, and don't be afraid to take up space in the world. Let yourself feel light and expansive, because the world could use a lot more of that. So be you unapologetically. Thank you for joining me for this quick podcast. I know that sometimes I'll go into topics that are a bit more esoteric, but that's what I love to do, to weave them in and out and to make them more practical and tangible for you. So I hope that you got something out of that. If you have any questions or comments, please let me know. Leave them in the comments below. Or if you're watching elsewhere or listening elsewhere, then you can always connect with me on Instagram at All Worlds Health, on Facebook, All Worlds Health and Pediatrics, or on my website, allworldshealth.com. You can sign up for my e-love letters. I send them out about every week. And if you don't know, my new book is out. I Am Intuitive, a multidimensional guide to embrace your inner light. So that is available on Amazon and other booksellers, and in person as well. And I'll have one more big announcement coming soon. So stay tuned for that. Lots of love to all of you. Have a beautiful rest of your week. And I will see you next time. It's Dr. Arlene Diamco, the Multidimensional MD.